Welcome back to the channel. Once again joined by Dr. Mark Bull, and we're going to explore the influence of the hand and eyes in the golf swing and how that may help players to move better in their swing as a whole. So if you're looking to move better, which is, I'm assuming that's why you're here, stay tuned and hopefully we'll find a few pieces here that'll help you with your game. Thanks once again for joining me. Joined by Dr. Mark Bull, one of my key mentors I've mentioned in the past few videos, so you're getting to know Mark a little bit now. It really is a privilege to be able to share some of Mark's influence that he's had on my coaching, but also philosophies with you as well to help you with your game. Today we're looking at the hand and eyes and their influence on movement in the golf swing. So again, with many of Mark's philosophies he shares with me, there's almost this simplicity and I would say very relatable approach to movement in the golf swing for many players. So Mark, I'll let you kind of open up on this, the influence of the hand and eyes and how that influences the way a player moves.
Thanks, Ian. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you and go through this. And so you look at, say, the hand and eye, for example, this is a wonderfully complex area, which we're keeping a very kind of, as you say, very easy applied approach today. So loosely speaking, our eyes drive our behaviours. Kind of where we look is where we move. We can look at, say, the hands, for example, within our evolution of movement. The hands are how the brain and body communicate. So you look at, say, just on the most hierarchical level, going back, over the thousands and hundreds of thousands of years that the humans evolved, where we look is where we move. Our eyes drive our behaviours in life, and the hands are how the brain and body communicate. So in the most playful way, you can start to explore kind of vision, not necessarily kind of, for example, just kind of how you see things, but kind of way you look and how you look at something can then very much influence then how the hands then respond. So in that kind of very playful way, the hands invariably follow the eye. For example, if I kind of look to the ceiling to reach, I would look up, my hand would follow. I will look to the floor, my hand would follow, would be some kind of playful examples. So it's a wonderful way of playing golf, and especially, for example, the hands are our only connection with the golf club. For sure, obviously the feet are vitally important, for example, the ground reaction forces, but in terms of actually our interaction with the club, it comes via the hand. So the hand and eye on many levels touches our truest perception for all our kind of sensory bits of feedback. Vision, obviously, is a huge one in golf. Feel, for example, feel often comes with the touch receptors that we have, say, and how the hands are placed on the club. So there's many reasons why hand and eye are vital, for example. But let's kind of give some playful examples now, maybe using you as an example now.
Yes, that's
if I can just kind of use where you look, when you look at something, and then start to then see how the hands respond. And even, for example, then often how the feet then respond. I give a very playful, and this is meant purely as a playful way, the idea of ground reaction force. It could almost be called hand reaction force, that the feet follow the hands in life. So often the kind of profiles we produce to the floor are responding to often kind of where we look, how we choose to look at something, and how the hands are moving through space. The feet often then follow based on, for example, where the hands are.
And that's something I found really interesting in Mark's approach, is that over the past, I'd say, probably more just 5 years, more recently, there's been a lot of, I'd say, video footage and just content created around using the ground, the way the feet move, the way the lower body moves. But you mentioned the hierarchy of movement there and how the hand, the eyes, everything sit higher than, say, the feet and the lower body movement and things like that. So
I'm sorry, I apologise. I mean, you can look at it even, say, in how babies evolve. They learn hand-eye coordination way before we learn to walk. So the kind of clues in some ways we've even left our evolution, that we learn to kind of position the head, move the neck, interact the hand and eye way before the gait cycle starts. So even the clues go back to when you and I were.
Yeah, I'm excited to look at this. So let's look at a couple of examples. I think with me kind of stepping in here.
So just even playfully, let's so your viewers can see this, kind of just say place the white ball here and the yellow ball there, just in that very playful way. So just go to your top of the backswing and stop. And as you're moving downswing, be very mindful how early can you visually start to reference and acknowledge that white ball on the ground. As you start to move downwards, use the eyes to locate that white ball almost immediately as you move in transition. And then just connect that back then to your awareness of where the hands are, the club face, the profile and the response through foot and ankle, so some of the ground reaction forces. In essence, you can apply that to every segment. If I start to look at and locate that ball as early as possible, what response do I then become exposed to, say, through the club, the hands, for example?
What I love about this is almost very much internal exploration here. I'm becoming more connected to my movements, more aware of what I do. When my eyes are being guided to a different, let's say, external point that I'm about to focus on. So yes, for me, as I go into my transition there, feels as though my pressure for me stays very much back in my right heel. Feels like my hands want to move more down and stay deeper. Club face feels like it wants to close. A couple of very evident feels for me. And that doesn't mean that that's going to be the same for everyone either, does it?
Absolutely right.
But they're kind of things that kind of come to my awareness when I'm looking at the white ball.
And even in this example now, we can just address that yellow ball, for example, once again. And as you move in transition this time, again, be very mindful. Can we start to locate the yellow ball over here almost immediately in transition? And then again, start to connect then. How do you then respond through, again, the club face, foot and ankle, the pelvis, the spine? So again, almost every segment. How do you then adapt how you move based on, again, that the eyes drive our behaviours, where we look is where we move?
Well, that's interesting for me because the club face almost being so key in the golf swing, it feels as though it stays much calmer when I want to get there, and I feel a ton more, I'd say, stretch across the lead side of my rib cage. Feel as though I'm getting to my left heel a lot more. Yeah, that's a very, very, very different sensation to looking at the white ball.
So even connects back to some earlier videos that you and I have done around the idea of kind of pelvis as path. We can then start to even expand on that. For example, where we look is path. If someone has, for example, a path which is excessively, as you would see it, outside in that very informal definition, let's start to explore looking at this ball early in transition, and vice versa. So eyes can be very evocative in a lovely way to then encourage, say, for example, different club delivery, but in the most kind of playful way.
I like that approach there for me. It doesn't mean that it's good for everyone, but for me, an external kind of driver as far as the movement is always, I find, a lot more helpful for me than someone asking me to, say, feel something, whether it be a bigger movement segment, whether it be my rib cage or my pelvis. Something like that can be, I think, a lot simpler and encourage the movement rather than focusing on the bigger segment, as I mentioned just a moment ago. So a couple of options there to play around with it. Yes, if you feel as though your path is getting too much, a little bit out to in, maybe a visual out in front of you like the white ball could be good. And for other players, if you feel as though you're too much in to out, maybe a visual like the yellow ball. And again, it doesn't have to be positioned where they are here. You can play around with where they are in space and just explore how that influences your movement and your club delivery. So another video. Thanks again, Mark, and hope you guys enjoy playing around with that stuff.